Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 series Rescue the Rockies. And the 2041 season is complete. A very good regular season with 99 wins and a good postseason with wins in the wild card round in the divisional series before we lost to the eventual World Series champion Philadelphia Phillies in the NLCS. But when all is said and done, still a disappointing season given the team that we have put together. We did our annual roster review at the end of the last episode following the defeat in the NLCS. And there's definitely some potential turnover coming this offseason. Got a few spots to fill, notably catcher. Potentially a couple outfield spots, and potentially could use an arm or two can start in our rotation. So we're going to probably have a somewhat more active offseason than we've gotten used to the last few seasons, when the changes have typically just been one or two material moves, and in some cases even those moves were somewhat marginal relative to the rest of the roster. Going to focus on getting the offseason started in this episode, but before we do that, going to check in on our farm system, and we're also going to talk about one trade that we have made since last episode to try to fill one of the gaps on our team. We've brought a pitcher who we think can be a number 4 starter for us on board in a trade with the Miami Marlins. And the newest Colorado Rocky is Kyle Compost, 29-year-old right-hander with a 27-31 record, 3.96 ERA. Compost is definitely just a guy. He's been a slightly above average major league starter over the course of his career with a 106 ERA plus, 88 FIP minus, a bit stronger than that. Positives for him, he's okay to borderline good at everything. Has a excellent cut fastball to go with an above average fastball. His sinker is below average and his circle change is not that good at all. Does have ground ball tendencies, and he's very good at holding on runners. Negative is he's a 5-inning starter. You can see he has pitched 32-plus games each of the last 3 years in Miami. Never had more than 16 decisions in a season, and the 169 innings pitched that he pitched in 2041 is the most of his career, and the first time that he's ever actually qualified for the ERA title. But he's been a good 2.5, 3 WAR type pitcher with Miami. He's got this upcoming year set to make about $6.5 million in arbitration. And he just gives us a solid professional arm to hopefully replace some of what we'll be losing this offseason. Bernie Barrera, a longtime 3rd and 4th starter for us, who admittedly did get demoted to the bullpen last year, opted out of his contract, and we're going to let him go. And then Mr. Norton, the pitcher that we rented before the trade deadline last year as our number 4 starter, also set to be a free agent, and we're not going to bring him back. So Compost is a more than competent back of the rotation type pitcher who hopefully will be with us for the next couple of seasons. Gave up 2 guys who are younger to bring him on board, but not huge parts of our future. Jason Malia is a borderline interesting hitting prospect with really good speed, but his glove is so bad that we've never given him a shot at the majors. He has combined for 51 homers and 195 ribbies the last 2 years in AAA for us. So again, I think he can be a useful offensive player, but as a right-handed hitter without a glove who's closing in on 26 years old, just not really the profile that was ever going to be that important to us. And we also included the minor league outfielder David Snacks Marsh. Had a brief cup of coffee with us last year when he went 0 for 3 with a couple of strikeouts. Like the 65 range in the outfield, there was a scenario last year where if we had some injuries, he would have been our center fielder. Good speed. The bat, however, is not all that special. Hit 259 and 254 the last couple of years in AAA, and clearly not a big part of our future. So can't say this is the most impactful trade that we've ever been involved in, but felt like Malia and Marsh were definitely both excess 4A kind of talent that we were only going to use if we had some significant injuries and needed their help in a pinch, whereas Compost hopefully can help stabilize the back end of our rotation with a couple of notable departures coming this offseason. Certainly doesn't preclude us from doing something much more meaningful in the trade market or the free agent market. But at least, as I said, hopefully stabilizes the rotation behind Martinez, Russell, and Hoffmeister a bit. We've also made some initial decisions on what we're going to be doing in salary arbitration. Compost obviously making an offer too, along with Jeff Colson, Jesse Hoffmeister, and the relievers Jason McKinney, Roberto Ramirez, Melvin Reyes, and Eric Schweitzer. Left fielder Eric Mokeen going to get an offer as well. Right now, expecting that we're going to move on from Jarrett Woods, the 30-year-old infielder, who we paid $2 million to basically be a 4A player for us last year. Had only 20 major league at-bats, and with the youth that we do have in the infield right now, think he's excess, and there's just essentially no trade market for him other than taking back like a really bad contract from someone making $30 million a year. And David Guadron is unfortunately a similar situation. No trade market at all for him. Guadron, former first-round pick, set to make $6.5 million in arbitration this upcoming season. Spent most of the year in AAA for us over the last couple seasons. He's kind of moved from being a fifth starter to a long reliever to kind of a 4A guy who we bring up when we have some injuries. Going to be 29 years old before the season gets underway, and as I noted, with the fact that he's set to make about $6.5 million next year, has essentially no value in the trade market. So we'll continue to investigate whether maybe if there's some trade we try to do over the next few weeks before free agency, Guadron or Woods does have some value, but based on what I've seen so far, I'm not anticipating that that will be the case. And we did also investigate the trade market for a left-handed hitting outfielder. As I noted, we've probably got 2 holes to fill in the outfield with both Ron Davis and Phil Dingwell potentially leaving us this offseason. And a guy that is attainable in the trade market that might be able to help on the margins is John Ledford. I think we're going to wait until we get past the beginning of free agency just to see who actually makes it onto the market, what the prices of guys like Davis and Dingwell look like on the market, and whether there might be an interesting international free agent on the market. Because Ledford, it's going to take a few modest prospects to get him. Not the most expensive guy to pick up. He's 26 years old, but he'll be 27 before next season starts. Is a left-handed hitter. He's fragile physically. Over the course of his major league career, he's been a slightly above average offensive player. Never even had 400 at-bats in a season, though, over parts of 5 seasons for Texas. Really like the personality. He's a competent corner outfielder, decent speed. The bat, as we noted, has been slightly above average, but nothing special. Our hope is, though, if we used him entirely against right-handed pitching, the numbers might be a little better. The contact and the gap power a bit above average against righties. The power in the eye still purely average. Looking at his batting splits from a year ago, he did hit 289 against righties and just a $198 against lefties. So I think there's certainly a role for him. But as I mentioned, he's going to be 27. He's fragile, and the bat isn't special. He's a left-handed batter who's slightly above average offensively. I mean, he's hit 10, 17, and 12 homers the last 3 years, so he's not going to make a huge difference for us, but we do need a left-handed hitter. The bit of a complicating factor is that he is signed for the next 4 seasons, and he's going to be making $16.2 million the last 2 years of that contract. We can probably get the Rangers to retain a little bit of it, but for what he is, I don't necessarily feel great paying him $16 million a year. Really, of this long list of potential left-handed hitters who are just competent offensive players, he was the most realistic for us to consider. But as I noted, might let Davis and Dingwell both hit free agency, see who else is in the free agent market, and then perhaps revisit trading for Ledford closer to the winter meetings when maybe we can get even a more interesting deal on him. And we did also search for a catcher to try to trade for, and the pool of catchers in the majors right now is just not that good if you want someone who's not a butcher defensively, which clearly with our focus on pitching is not something we want to do. So, although I can't say I'm thrilled that J.D. Lee opted into his contract, does give us, along with Eric Mokeen, the only left-handed bats that are definitely going to be on our roster next year, although if we only have the 2 of them, Mario Manriquez has an outstanding job of making the team coming out of spring training. But J.D. Lee is a left-handed hitter who's still a competent defensive catcher, is likely going to be our number 1 catcher next year, unless there just happens to be an incredible international free agent catcher on the market, which is maybe a 10% probability, so not counting on that. Not ideal to be paying Lee the money that we're going to be paying him next year, but the pool of catchers, as I noted, that are going to be free agents potentially, or that are just in Major League in general that I've investigated and thought about trading for, is just not impressive. So J.D. Lee likely to remain our catcher for 2042. And of our pending free agents, with the trade that we just made for Mr. Compost, Bernie Barrera and Brian Norton, both extremely unlikely to have a reunion with us. As I mentioned, we're going to probably let Davis and even Dingwell hit free agency. Dingwell can probably get him for a little less than $7.5 million for the next 3 years, but he's wrecked physically, and he's really playable only against left-handed pitching. We've got plenty of right-handed batters who can take his spot. Not all are going to be as good defensively as Dingwell, but as a 4th or 5th outfielder, we'll let Davis and Dingwell hit free agency. If we can't work something out with Ledford, and if there's no one that interesting around, Davis could become an option. Reminder, we spent $2.7 million on him last year after we made a minor league free agent signing with a major league option on him, which was good value. But now he's looking for over $12 million a year for 3 years, which at his age, just don't love. With the money we're spending on J.D. Lee, not going to bring Doug Hall back, may give Elliot Bedford the opportunity to finally be our starting catcher against left-handed pitching alongside J.D. Lee. Two-way player Jason House going to move on from, but we are going to be a bit sentimental and bring back Derby Mahez. The former first-round pick, his weaknesses are well known. He's brittle physically, and the bat at this point is below average for a major leaguer undoubtedly, even against left-handed pitching. But he's great in the clubhouse. The fans love him. He's still got very good base running instincts, and he is a good, versatile fielder who can give us competent play defensively to good play defensively at any position in the infield. And with the fact that some of our younger infielders who might be on the team, like John Jefferson and Mario Manriquez, aren't that good defensively, if we keep Ted Slade as a first base DH type, that's another guy who's not good defensively. Having a really good glove among our utility infielders is something that I still like to have. And we've got the opportunity to do that with Mahez. He just opted out. I believe the final year of his contract was also going to be $8.5 million. So he's looking for a little more of an extension here. We're going to try to structure something. We'll include the plate appearance bonuses and stuff that he wants, maybe even make those a little easier to achieve and a little more money, because I don't think he'll ever get those with us. But would like to make this potentially a shorter contract, or one that we've got the opportunity to get out of. And I don't think Mahez will go for this deal, but we're going to try it anyways. He was looking for $8.5 million a year for 3 years. We're offering him only $7 million a year for 3 years, and the second year is a team option. So it's really potentially a 1-year, $7.7 million contract with the buyout. Do give him the vesting option that needs only 450 plate appearances rather than 490, and do lower his minimum plate appearance bonus from 550 to 500 and increase the amount to 500,000. So on the margin, we made the vesting option and the incentives a little better for him, but certainly that team option for the second season and less money makes it something that I think he'll be a lot less interested in. But he says he's willing to think about it, so we'll submit that offer to Derby Mahez, potentially have him back next year for $7 to $7.7 million, whether or not we exercise that team option for 2043. And we've also offline been looking to trade guys that we wanted to move off of the 40-man roster. Bobby England is a guy that we talked about a few years ago before expansion. Almost 25 years old now, not a big part of our future. 1-6 with a 6.41 ERA in AAA Albuquerque for us a year ago, or this past season more accurately, since it just ended weeks ago. Fragile in terms of his injury proneness. And England has been claimed by Cincinnati. We didn't even want to guarantee him a major league contract next year and a spot on the 40-man roster. But although nobody was really willing to offer anything for him in trade, Cincinnati willing to take him for just guaranteeing him a spot on their roster. And we've started to get some players signed to either minor league extensions or some of the arbitration eligible players that we talked about. Kyle Compost, Eric Mokeen, Jesse Hoffmeister, the fans excited by that. We did also get Derby Mahez signed to that extension. So it actually worked out well for us. He opted out of a 1-year deal that was going to pay him more than the $7 million that we'll have him at for next year. So certainly easy to move on from him if we need to, and our young infielders continue developing. But at least we've got a veteran who can play anywhere defensively going forward. Eric Schweitzer and Jason McKinney, Jeff Colson, Melvin Reyes. So basically looks like just about all of the arbitration eligible players have been signed. Guadrone and Woods still sitting out there. I mentioned over the years that part of the reasons I don't like to do expansion teams is that little stuff just seems to tend to break, and the default start of the season is still pushed back to April 10th, even though we started it earlier this past year. And what that means and what I fear is that we might end up losing out on the second development lab session again this year if we are unable to change it. And we can't change the start date now until we get to the preseason, at which point it might be too little too late as far as the timing for those things. Just these little quirks that can get annoying. I guess I could wait until April 10th to have the season start and have the World Series going into November. This is all just made up, so that is one potential solution also. But still a bit frustrating, just the little quirky things that I don't even want to say get broken, but just get tweaked generally in a negative direction when you try making too many changes to a sim, especially when you're 15, 16, 17 seasons into it as we are. Speaking of the development lab, I meant to show you what we were doing at the start of the episode. 3 bat speed programs. Nils Mensch, one of our top prospects. Mario Manriquez, who, as we mentioned, could be competing for a roster spot next year and would be a rare left-handed bat in our lineup. And Steve Wheats, second-round pick from a couple years ago, all working on bat speed. John Jefferson, Alex Gamez, and Carlos Barrel de Villa all going to be working on their gap power. And then a couple of our top pitching prospects, the starter Makoto Hirota working on control, and the reliever Ryan Harville working on his pitch movement, as we try to hopefully supplement the pitching staff in addition to supplementing some of the hitters on our team. And doing now the long-promised review of our minor league system. 27th out of 32 teams overall. We have not had a lot of success the last couple years in successfully developing players, particularly college players that we've picked near the top of the draft who we thought were not too far off from being able to help in the majors. And we've also been picking last or near to last in the first round for over a decade at this point. So at some point you would think that would start to have an impact, and definitely has with at least how others view our minor league system. Speaking of things that were tweaked or broken, though, the changes that were made in a patch several months ago at this point to the minor league systems have put us in a situation where our minor league teams are completely dominant, which I don't love at the lower levels. I mean, it's just kind of silly, but you would think that this is the kind of stuff that wouldn't get broken so easily. 26 or 27 iterations into a game series like this one. But regardless, you can see we've only got 6 top 200 prospects at this point. A couple of guys we touched upon are going to be in the development lab. Makoto Hirota, 23-year-old scouting discovery from 7 years ago at this point. Was a combined 11-9 in AA and AAA, combined for a 3.7 WAR. Don't think his stuff is ever going to be that special, but the movement and control both could be. He's got good stamina. Outspoken, a couple of negative personality traits, but still looks like he could be a pretty useful starting pitcher for us, hopefully in the not-too-distant future. And Nils Mensch mentioned we're going to work on his bat speed to try to get some more power from the 22-year-old German. A versatile defensive player, although similar to some of the guys we mentioned like Manriquez and Jefferson, not necessarily incredible at any defensive position. The bat is ultimately going to be what keeps Mensch in the majors, particularly if he's able to be successful in that Generate Bat Speed program. Spent all of last year at AA Hartford, where he hit just .219. Did have 14 homers and 60 ribbies, but he's basically been a replacement-ish level player over the last year plus that he's been in Hartford. So it's going to be pretty important that he takes a good step forward in the development lab, and then hopefully in terms of his performance on the field this upcoming year. Orlando Preciado, scouting discovery from back in 2036. The 22-year-old is the number 99 prospect in baseball. 7-0 with a 3.83 ERA and high A ball. His development has just been really slow. You can see he's almost 23 years old at this point. We haven't been able to get him higher than high A ball. And he's still got a lot of work to do, particularly with his control. If he reaches his full potential, he's a useful back of the rotation type starter or long and middle reliever with a left-handed arm. But to my point about the pitching stats or just stats in general and the performance of the minor league teams since that patch that caused some problems, Orlando Preciado is 49-0 over his minor league career in the lower levels of the organization, which is obviously just extremely ridiculous. Still holding out hopes he could be a useful major leaguer for us at some point, but he's certainly got some work to do. Reliever Cameron Bean was an 8th round pick this past year. The fact that an 8th round pick this past year, who we think has horrible control, is listed as the 4th best prospect in our organization kind of says it all. Ezekiel Caban, 2nd round pick from back in 2038, split the year between high A Spokane and double A Hartford, combined for a 16-6 record between the two levels. Looks like he could be a useful back of the rotation starter down the line. And another pitcher, Manny Hernandez, our final top 200 prospect, IAFA signing from 2038. Tucker Hernandez split the year between A and high A, combining to go 20-1 in 26 starts at those two levels with a 6.3 WAR across the two levels. A lot of work to do on his control and keeping the ball in the ballpark, but he is only 20 years old, has that great stamina, can already hit 100 miles an hour on the radar gun, so still optimistic that Tucker Hernandez can become an interesting player for us. We'll look at a few other guys. Victor Viala, AAA player in the PCL for us. Looks like he could be a useful 4th or 5th outfielder, at least while he's making the major league minimum. Did hit well over 300 in both AA and AAA this past year with the above average contact. But everything else about his bat is kind of meh. So I don't necessarily think he's ultimately going to be an impact player for us. Ryan Harville, talked about him. He's going to be in the development lab working on his movement. If he improves his movement and his control, could end up being a pretty important right-handed arm out of the bullpen for us. After the 2043 season, we have several relievers who will be through their arbitration years and eligible as free agents if we don't re-sign them. And having a guy like Harville, who we think could be a pretty good reliever coming up through the organization, is important. Although he was not good, allowing 6 earned runs over the 3 innings that he pitched for us in the majors this past year. Adrian McCallum is becoming one of our future hopes at catcher. The right-hander, 24 years old, competent defensively, a bat that's not embarrassing, probably going to take over for Elliot Bedford as the backup catcher of our future in the not-too-distant future. Has hit over 300 in AA and AAA the last couple years, but looking at his profile, don't really expect the bat to be anything particularly special. Mentioned Mario Manriquez, who will be in the development lab working on his bat speed. He held his own in AA and AAA for us this year, and then did excel in 68 major league at-bats, hoping that we can continue to move his bat in a good direction this offseason. Guy who's capable of playing multiple positions in the infield, but as we touched upon, not particularly good defensively at them. Our first round pick this past year was Josh Thomas out of UC San Diego, and like many prospects, college players that we picked the last 2 years, the scouting reports quickly moving in a very negative direction on him. We thought his eye had 70 potential, and his power had 55 potential, and his contact had 50 potential. with a overall 65 potential with very high accuracy when we drafted him. And you can see his potential has clearly regressed across all of those categories, unfortunately, as we've gotten to know him better. Did hit 481 in 52 at-bats in high A ball, but only 233 in double A for us. He is in the Arizona Fall League at this point, getting some action with the Salt River Rafters. The hope is that the left-handed hitting Thomas could help with some of the issues we have as far as the dearth of left-handed hitters in the not-too-distant future, particularly in the outfield. But looking at him right now, I think it's unlikely that he's going to be ready to help us next year, which is obviously a key focus of our offseason right now. C.J. Coons, picked him in the second round this past year. He'll be making his professional debut in rookie ball for us next year. Another former first-round pick out of college, Luis Escobar, out of Cal State Fullerton. Spent the entire year in AAA for us this year, hit 265 with 27 homers and 100 ribbies, 2.3 WAR. Capable of playing numerous positions in the infield and corner outfield. The right-handed hitter is nothing special at this point. Fragile in terms of his injury proneness, almost 25 years old. But certainly could be competing for kind of a Phil Dingwell type role as a guy who might start against left-handed pitching for us next year, take up a sixth infield or fifth outfield type of spot on the team. But don't think that, unfortunately, El Capitan is going to be a true difference maker for us. Michael McCottrell was a first-round pick of ours back in 2037. The 22-year-old split the year between high A and double A this year, hit over 300 at both levels. Another guy who's capable of playing any position in the infield, although not necessarily at a gold glove level. Really good speed, but the bat, we knew the power was always going to be a concern. But at this point, the contact and the eye are not looking particularly special either. So really question whether the former first-round pick is going to have what it takes to be a major league hitter. And we'll check in on a few other prospects who are on loan. Mentioned that Steve Wheats is going to be in the development lab for us this year, the second-round pick from 2040. Spent this year with Double-A Hartford, where he hit 256, 13 homers, 52 ribbies. Looks like the bat could be useful. Looks like the glove could be useful. Hopefully he's getting some good experience with the Salt River Rafters. 23 years old. I would certainly hope that he'll be in AAA for us next year and might be able to help us down the line. Angelo Lopez, the reliever that we picked in the third round in 2040, spent the year with Double-A Hartford as well, saved 44 games for us, struck out 12 batters per 9 innings. Still have hopes that he will be in the majors in the not-too-distant future. Dealing with some rotator cuff tendonitis right now while he's playing in the Arizona Fall League. Still certainly has some work to do on his stuff, movement and control to be ready for the majors. But the hope is that Toko will be in AAA for us next year and perhaps in a position to be a September call-up. You may remember that last offseason tried to add a pitch to his arsenal and were unsuccessful with that. With the injury that he has right now, obviously not going to be in the development lab this year, even though it's not a long-term injury. John Corley, another guy who could get some play for us as a catcher in the coming years. Really like the glove, really like the personality. The bat is the potential issue, though. Hit 237 in Double-A Hartford after he got promoted this year. If we get lucky with the bat, the glove certainly would play in the majors, but just don't know what the future of the switch hitter is. Right now he does look like he's got very even ratings between lefty and right-handed pitching. We're kind of hoping there might be a bigger difference there for him and he could at least become a platoon guy down the line. Speaking of catchers, Trent Nath is getting a little experience as a left fielder right now, but Sluggo Nath, who was our first round pick a year ago, is another one of these college players that we've just done a brutal job developing after perhaps doing a brutal job scouting them. He hit 243 in 321 at-bats in Double-A this year, and then just a $179 when we brought him up to Triple-A towards the end of the year. If we look at the scouting reports on Nath, it's really kind of brutal. When we drafted him, we thought he was a 70 potential player with potentially above average home run power and a potentially exceptional eye. Less than a year and a half later, we don't really think he's a major league prospect, and we think the contact is well below average, the power below average, and the eye in a best case scenario is only major league average. So Nath is a guy who we either overestimated and or ruined with the way we've tried to develop him, and certainly don't have a lot of hopes for him becoming an impactful major leaguer at this point, which again, given that we drafted him just less than 16 months ago, is a bit depressing. But it is what it is at this point. Definitely have some work to do with player development and in the development lab. And hopefully over time we can pull this farm system out of the malaise that we now find ourselves in. And we've made it to the beginning of awards season, and looks like we've got a Gold Glove winner, at least one this year. And for the first time in his career, the veteran, hopefully future Hall of Famer, Kevin Roberts Jr. wins a Gold Glove in left field. Have always felt like he's been a bit underrated with his glove out there. Does look like our former catcher, Mike Girard, who's the Salt Lake Trappers, won the second Gold Glove of his career. He's now won 2 in a row for them since we moved on from him a couple of years ago. Hit only a $197 with a 52 WRC plus and a 1 WAR. So all of the value from Girard last year clearly came through his glove. But Kevin Roberts Jr., 4-time MVP, 10-time All-Star, has a bunch of Silver Sluggers and a bunch of playoff series MVPs as well, is now a Gold Glove winner for the first time in his career. Put up an 8.1 zone rating, 1.048 defensive efficiency in the field and right last year. Has a cannon of an arm out there and really good range and error rating for a corner outfielder as well. So good to see a little additional recognition of the career of Kevin Roberts Jr. As I mentioned, an outstanding career for him. 10-time All-Star, member of all 7 of our World Series championship teams, 10-time playoff series MVP, 5 Silver Sluggers, 3 MVPs, was a Rookie of the Year, and he now does have that Gold Glove award to add to his trophy case as well. And as usual, Colorado Rockies prominent in the Mariano Rivera Award voting. The lefty reliever Jason McKinney finished 4th, and 3-time winner, the setup/stopper Chris Kennedy, finished 2nd in the voting this year. But it's our former closer, Adonis Valer, the 31-year-old who went to the Phillies on a $29.4 million contract, a level that we just weren't willing to spend. 42 saves and a 1.78 ERA with a 2.5 WAR for the world champions this year. So that contract worked out well for Valer and worked out well for the Phillies as they took us out of the playoffs and won the World Championship despite being a wild card team with 84 wins, which was the fewest of any team in the postseason this year. And in the least surprising news ever, Toby Staveland once again is your National League Manager of the Year. He has now won that award 12 consecutive seasons for our Rockies every year in the decade of the 2030s, and now the past couple seasons as we've moved on to the 2040s. He is obviously a 7-time World Series champion, just like Kevin Roberts Jr., as he has guided all of the championship teams in Rockies history that we've built up through this playthrough. Heading into the Cy Young and the MVP voting, expecting that we'll have some players who will get some votes for those awards, but certainly not expecting that we will have winners in Colorado of either of them. And we have made it through the end of award season. Basically, relatively quiet for us. Got the Manager of the Year like we always do. Got the Gold Glove for Kevin Roberts Jr. Nobody on the board for us for the NL Rookie of the Year. And always think that you might win a Silver Slugger, but no such luck for us this year there as well. The big awards, Yankees pitcher Mike Finlay was your American League Cy Young Award winner. Amazing Finlay, 24 years old, wins the Cy Young. 15-7 record for the Bronx Bombers. Led the league in both walks and strikeouts per 9 innings for the second straight year. 5.5 WAR for the youngster, who has amazing stuff, not so amazing control. Your National League Cy Young Award winner is Miguel Polanco of the New York Mets. 11-8 with the league best 2.71 ERA. Also was very good at keeping the ball in the ballpark. Almost 55% of his starts were quality starts and put up a league best 5.5 WAR. As anticipated, did get some attention for the Rockies. Jesse Hoffmeister finished second in the voting, 128.6 first place votes after leading the league with 17 wins on his way to a 3.9 WAR season. And the veteran, 3-time Cy Young Award winner Leo Martinez, who led the league in games and innings pitched, 16-7 record, finished 5th in the voting. He, of course, tore that meniscus in the playoffs and ended up being a big loss for us. Maybe it would have been a different playoff run for us if we had him, although given the fact that after winning the first game against Philadelphia, they took 4 straight against us, hard to say that one starting pitcher would have been able to make up that much of a difference. Your unanimous American League MVP, Xavier Sanders of the Boston Red Sox, now back-to-back MVP awards for him. Led the league in runs, homers, ribbies, slugging percentage, OPS, WRC+, and WAR with an 8.5 for the outstanding shortstop, who's got a monster bat. And Sansaro Samaro is your National League MVP, the 4th time he has won that award at this point. Samaro led the league in runs, hits, triples, batting average, on-base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS, and WRC+, while putting up an 8.3 WAR for the Braves, who, of course, were the best team in the regular season in baseball this past year. Kevin Roberts Jr. finishes 4th in the voting. Mike Castro also got votes among our players. So just the two of them with MVP votes this year. We did only have the 3rd best record in the NL despite getting to 99 wins, so perhaps makes sense that little less love for our Rockies in the MVP voting this year. And we've made it to the start of free agency. International free agents have entered the market. There is a catcher, first baseman, and a few outfielders in addition to some starting pitchers. Let's hope that Leon Hernandez is a great-looking catching opportunity, and maybe there's a left-handed hitter among those outfielders or the first baseman, and maybe a great starting pitcher as well. But my hunches will probably won't get all of those things. Probably be lucky to get one of those things out of this pool. Yeah, the most interesting of the pitchers is Leo Hernandez, 27-year-old with putrid control. Don't think that's going to do anything for us. The catcher, Leon Hernandez, nothing special there either. A 28-year-old who's slightly above average defensively, below average major league hitter, and some negative personality traits. Overall, pretty unmotivated, so we'll be unmotivated to potentially bring him on board. And it definitely seems like the international free agents are not nearly as strong these last several years as they were in the first decade or so of this playthrough, unfortunately. So not any real opportunities for us there as we take a quick look at the broader free agent pool at this point. Batting-wise, as anticipated, Victor Ramirez, the most interesting player out there, the third baseman, looking for $45.6 million with some cuts that we made in signing some arbitration-eligible players to less money than they were asking for. We've got over $50 million to spend, so we certainly could make one big splash if we wanted to. But don't know that that's necessarily the route that we'll end up going. Chris Galvez, switch hitting catcher, is a guy who would be great as a platoon guy with us against left-handed pitching with J.D. Lee. Honestly, he could handle his own against right-handed pitching too. But low leadership and low baseball IQ is certainly not typically what you'd expect from a catcher. The glove a little bit above average, and he's looking for $29 million a year. Is a 4-time All-Star and a 4-time Silver Slugger winner, so don't mean to diminish what he could do, but just don't know that that is the right fit for us. Jose Bravo, another catcher out there, really like the glove, but the bat is not a major league bat, and also has some negative personality traits. Our old buddy Trent Kaysen on the market, Dave Carbajal, if we wanted a left-handed hitter, but again, nothing real special there. He's fragile physically, is a guy who's better against right-handed pitching than left-handed pitching. But Ledford, as we talked about, is still a potential trade option down the line if we want to do something maybe a little bit more interesting and adventurous with our the left-handed bat that we may need to add as a corner outfielder / center fielder. 22-year-old Olivero Garcia. He might be someone to consider. He's young. Toronto letting him hit free agency after he hit just .216 with 13 homers and 42 ribbies and 366 at-bats. Assuming they must have had him at the major league minimum based on his service time, so I really don't understand why they would just cut him, because it looks like he's got a pretty good personality. The glove, nothing special. The speed, really nothing special. But the bat is potentially interesting. Basically, the slightly better against right-handed pitching than he is against left-handed pitching. Don't love that he's a 22-year-old who's also fragile and a guy who really being an impact player in the majors is on the come with improving several areas and reaching his full potential. But at $11 million a year, he could be the best option out there. Only looking for a 3-year deal too, so Oliverio Garcia, maybe someone to consider. Michael Harris Jr., the second left-handed hitter at 40 years old at this point, is wrecked physically, although he brings some positives in. Johnny Cohn is a 33-year-old who's been in the majors for over 10 years, but for some reason we don't know anything about him, even though he's been in our division with the Dodgers for at least the last 3 seasons. Again, just one of the little quirks of scouting that is just kind of silly at this point. But I'll stop complaining about the little things in the game that annoy me. We've got a new version coming out in less than a month that I am very excited to see. Pitching-wise, our old buddy Adonis Valere is the premier guy on the market, and his demand seems a lot more reasonable than it was a year ago. $16 million a year for 3 years. If we're going to spend the money somewhere, I guess Valere is certainly an option. Don't necessarily see any huge starting pitchers on the market. Norton, who we just let go, is on the market. Obviously, Bernie Barrera is also out there. Among the starters, we made the decision or the thought that Compost was better than any of these potential options, which is why we made the trade for him. But with the very meager international free agent pool this year, no real shocking surprises on the market that are going to be true impact players for us. So kind of a familiar situation to the last few years in that we've got a decent amount of money to spend, but the free agent pool itself isn't incredibly compelling. The difference this year is that we do have some holes to fill. We still definitely need a backup or perhaps a platoon catcher, depending on how we look at things. And we need to bring a couple of outfielders, at least one of whom is a left-handed hitter, on board. So we've got perhaps a little more work to do this offseason than we've been used to with the free agent market. Unfortunately, there's no particularly incredible and compelling options that I can see that are out there, which maybe does put us in a situation where the youngster Olivero Garcia becomes a left-handed hitting corner outfielder / DH / first base type for us. Hopefully, with his fragility, if we're only playing him against right-handed batters, we can keep right-handed pitchers, we could keep him in the lineup. Looking at his splits from a year ago, he was better against right-handed pitching than he was against left-handed pitching, but he was basically league average against righties and below average against lefties. Again, not an incredibly impressive season a year ago, but he does draw some walks, does have a little bit of home run and extra base pop. He is a left-handed hitter, which we could use, and he's younger than some of those options that we talked about. And when we talked about trading for Ledford, as I mentioned, we were going to have to give up 3 or 4 middling-type prospects to get him. And Ledford still has those big $16 million on the books in his late 20s, early 30s, in the 3rd and 4th years of that contract. Olivero Garcia might be a similar-ish player. Just a left-handed bat, but could be the most interesting one out there for us to consider as we get ready to continue moving forward with this offseason. I mean, clearly Victor Ramirez would be a huge addition. Really good-looking defensive third baseman with a bat, 30 homers, 84 ribbies, 40 doubles, 143 WRC plus, and a 6.7 WAR for Boston. You can see he's been 4+ WAR for the last 4 years with Boston at this point. But he's fragile physically, and he's looking for a ton of money, even though we can afford him. We know that between now and next offseason, we're going to need to make a huge commitment to Kevin Roberts Jr. to ensure that he spends his whole career here. So I'm kind of thinking this might be a year where we pick around on the margins of the free agents who are available. And Garcia at least has youth. Only have high scouting accuracy on him, so we'll probably try to get a more updated scouting report to ensure that we really know what we're potentially dealing with if we do want to bring him on board. Our old buddy Jason House, the demand a lot lower. If we wanted to bring him back as a two-way player, we could. Certainly still very economical. Dave Carbajal gives us a left-handed bat, but again, although we like his speed, he's 31 years old, fragile, looking for $6 million a year more than Garcia. Although Garcia is also fragile, at least he's got youth going for him, some positive personality traits, and the hope that the bat could be a little bit better. So I think I'm leaning towards perhaps looking at Olivero Garcia as a fourth outfielder for us. And when I say fourth outfielder, that's probably not really being fair to him, because as a left-handed hitter, we would certainly envision him being in the starting lineup against right-handed pitching in a left field, DH, first base type role, depending on what the rest of the roster looks like come April. But I don't know that there's anything else that we're really going to push as far as the hitters. We are going to have to find a catcher somewhere, unless we want to use Elliott Bedford as our catcher against left-handed pitching next year, which would not be horrible, but it wouldn't be great. And we could try to bring Adonis Valer back to bolster the bullpen more. His demands are a lot more reasonable at this point. David Pacheco is also a pretty highly regarded reliever on the market, but he's 33, fragile physically, and not necessarily the best guy. So I think if we were going to go in any direction with the pitchers, it would be a reunion with our buddy Adonis Valer. So we definitely continue to have a lot to think about with the Rockies, with the official departure of Ron Davis. Obviously have a big hole in our lineup for a left-handed hitter in the middle of the order, as we've talked about, between Oliveira or maybe Mario Manriquez, or maybe both of them. There are options to try to fill that hole. Very dependent, of course, on Leo Martinez coming back from that injury to take his spot back on top of the rotation and really fill out our rotation for next year. And at this point, with the fact that we let David Guadron go and also moved on from Norton and Barrera, a lot of the depth among our starting pitchers and our long relievers that we've had is a bit more suspect this year. So could certainly be looking to add a starting pitcher. But again, I don't necessarily think there's any incredible options on the free agent market. So going to be an interesting off-season the rest of the way for us. We're going to continue trying to knock out these episodes relatively quickly in the coming days. Do happen to have President's Day off tomorrow on Monday, so you'll probably see a bit more of me over the next 48 hours than you typically would before I get back into the normal busyness of daily life. So we're going to continue moving forward with these Rockies. If you've got any thoughts on what we should do, would love to hear them in the comments section down below. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.